So good morning and welcome, everyone. I'm Michelle Boyle with St. Vincent de Paul. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. I'd like to thank Mayor Catherine Pugh for joining us today. It's very good to see you. Also our Continuum of Care and Homeless Services partners, our board members and friends here. Welcome also to our funders, especially Amy Klein from Weinberg, thank you, and Bob Embry from the Able Foundation. We are grateful for your presence. So we are so grateful to have our partners in care here, Terry Kingston and all of those that provide rapid rehousing also in the county. We have with us today the front door staff and our Career Connections staff. But most of all, we are most proud of having former St. Vincent de Paul clients, those who exemplify the success that we wish for all the individuals and families in our programs. Thank you. So this morning we come together to celebrate the expansion of St. Vincent de Paul's Front Door Rapid Rehousing Program and to officially introduce the Navigator Model, a national best practice for employment services being pioneered in Baltimore for homeless individuals and families under St. Vincent de Paul's Career Connections program. I'd like to introduce first our president and CEO, John Schiavone. John has served as the head of St. Vincent de Paul since 1988. Working tirelessly to ensure those impacted by poverty have the skills and resources to achieve their full potential, St. Vincent de Paul as an organization has grown significantly under his leadership. We are now a leader in homeless services, workforce development, children and family services, as well as healthy food access. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out and braving this wicked weather here in Baltimore. You know, I always hear people say, you know, I love Maryland, I love Baltimore because there's such a variety of weather and seasons. You never think you're going to get the whole variety in one morning, but it looks like that's what we're set for today. So thank you for persevering and showing up. And again, thank you, Mayor Pugh, for being with us. This event really represents the culmination of a lot of great collaborative work over the years to reduce and prevent family homelessness. What you may or may not know is that families are one of the fastest growing segments of the homeless population and nationally represent about 1/3 of those who are homeless. And you don't always think of that when you think of the typical picture of what constitutes a homeless individual. Families who are homeless face huge obstacles to returning to permanent housing and self-sufficiency, as the moms and dads not only have to overcome their own financial, employment, or other challenges, many of times which also includes past trauma, but they also have to take care of their children and provide them with the care and support that they need. The impact of homelessness on children is most profound, and there's a tremendous amount of data that shows the trauma of experiencing homelessness can have a lifelong negative impact on children, resulting in developmental delays, learning disabilities, and emotional and behavioral problems. Rapid rehousing recognizes that the best way to address the needs of families and individuals who experience homelessness and minimize those negative consequences is to reduce the amount of time people are homeless. I know that sounds somewhat basic, but it's somewhat challenging and has been challenging for many years to achieve. Reduce the amount of time, you reduce the negative impact. Rapid rehousing is a proven best practice strategy for helping people who experience homelessness return to permanent housing and stay housed. It's also one of the most cost-efficient permanent housing interventions that we have, and it will be a critical part of our local strategy here in Baltimore to achieve a functional end to homelessness. Back in 2009, St. Vincent de Paul, I'm proud to say, was instrumental in pioneering rapid rehousing services here in Baltimore. And over time, we've incorporated our lessons learned and refined our approach. In 2014, we further expanded the program and added a 3-year research study by Apt Associates funded by the Weinberg Foundation. Thank you, Amy. The purpose of the study was to evaluate the effectiveness of our approach to rapidly rehousing families and further develop and improve it. In a moment, Amy Klein, who conceived of and funded the Apt Associates study, will share with you some of the results of that research, which underscores the effectiveness of our rapid rehousing model. And also, by the way, we do have some copies of the executive summary of that research over on the counter over there if you're interested in picking that up on the way out. If you would like a full copy, we also can provide that. So now, thanks to a $1 million grant from HUD and the continued support of our funding partners, this year we are further expanding Front Door to reach even more families, with a portion of this funding dedicated to serving families fleeing domestic violence through a partnership with the House of Ruth. Employment is key to achieving the economic stability necessary to sustain housing. That is fundamental. Today, we are also pleased to announce that St. Vincent de Paul is pioneering in Baltimore a national best practice for employment services called the Navigator Model, funded in large part by a grant from the Weinberg Foundation. Thank you again, Amy. These embedded services are now available to 160 households receiving rapid rehousing services not only through our Front Door program, but also households served by our partners at House of Ruth and Healthcare Access Maryland. So we're very excited to reach this moment where we can pause and celebrate the accomplishments to date of the Front Door program and the completion of the research study and the release of the findings and the launch of the Navigator Model for employment services. So it's a triple header today. I want to acknowledge and thanks again the support of our great partners for working with us to reduce homelessness and make our community a better place as a result. First, of course, Mayor Pugh again and the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services. I want to give a special shout out to Terry Hickey and Danielle Meister and Hannah Roberts. I don't know if anyone else is here from the Mayor's Office, but thank you all for being such great partners and providing such tremendous support and leadership to ending homelessness. Second, the ABLE Foundation, with a special thank you to Bob Embry, President, who's here with us today, Terry Staudemeyer, for your great support and interest in our work in rapid rehousing and in employment. Third, the United Way of Central Maryland, and many thanks to Angie McAllister and Sandy Monk and our friends over there for being with us and working with us on rapid rehousing over the years. Is there anyone from United Way here? I know some were on the list, but they may have gotten scared off by the weather. And then fourth, of course, the Weinberg Foundation, who has truly been a close partner and a leader in funding for both rapid rehousing and employment services targeted to persons experiencing homelessness. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge and recognize the key leadership from St. Vincent de Paul, who's really been instrumental in the success of the Front Door program. Mary Rode, our Chief Operating Officer. You can raise your hand, Mary. Go ahead. Tony Bulware, our Senior Director for Homeless Services. And Laura Starzanek behind the controls here, our Director of our Front Door program. And also Tona Craviato, who's the Senior Director for Employment Services. So with that, at this time I'm very pleased to introduce a great partner and friend who has worked with us for many years very closely on the development of our rapid rehousing services and now the Navigator Employment Services, Amy Klein of the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation.
Good morning. This is such a privilege, such an exciting moment. So, as you heard, I'm Amy Klein. I manage the Housing and Community Services portfolio at the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation, and I'm going to talk about this partnership, give you a little background, talk about what we've learned over the past 3 or 4 years and why we've decided to invest in expanding rapid rehousing and this new Navigator model. So, in 2014, staff at the Weinberg Foundation had an exciting opportunity to try a new approach to grant making. So many of you may not be familiar with the foundation world or with the Weinberg Foundation in particular, but we tended to, and we still do, receive requests, read them, and respond. But we wanted to be more proactive, and so we had the chance to think about what might we want to accomplish. At that point in time in Baltimore, rapid rehousing was still a relatively new intervention. There were a few agencies in Baltimore, including St. Vincent de Paul, who had received funding through the Recovery Act to initiate rapid rehousing on a small scale. But we didn't have a solid model, and we didn't know how well it was working. Simultaneously, we saw that the numbers of families experiencing homelessness were increasing, and so we knew that something bold needed to be done. And so I proposed that we make what would be considered to be a pretty significant investment to serve more families while learning about the work along the way. So the Weinberg Foundation Board agreed to commit up to $1.5 million over 3 years to refine a model for rapid rehousing and evaluate it so we could learn how well it is working. And I want to emphasize that this really was out of the box for the foundation at that time. And as a result, I felt a big responsibility to be an excellent steward of the project. I needed to identify a capable, solid partner, and it was quickly obvious that St. Vincent de Paul was best positioned based on its previous experience and expertise in serving families. And I would be remiss not to also mention that United Way had already been funding a version of rapid rehousing with St. Vincent de Paul, so the Weinberg Foundation was able to leverage those funds in addition to federal funds from the Emergency Solutions Grant. The ABLE Foundation also came to the table with funding during the second part of the project. So you see, with a variety of funding sources, we were able to achieve this goal, to serve 65 families a year during this 3-year period. So then we needed an evaluator, which is also something the Weinberg Foundation does not typically do. So in many ways, this was a unique experience for us. So we, working alongside St. Vincent de Paul, issued a request for proposals and decided to hire Apt Associates. It was a great choice. Apt has been a terrific partner. Megan Henry, our lead evaluator, was actually planning to be here and had booked her ticket for March 14th. But unfortunately, first this event was postponed, and then she was going to come anyway, but there was a snowstorm in Maine, and so she couldn't come at all. But she wanted to be here today. So Apt, for those who don't know, has a deep experience in housing and homelessness field and had already done a national evaluation of rapid rehousing for HUD and is in the process of doing another. And we were very fortunate to have their expertise. So evaluation sounds boring, who wants to talk about measurement and outcomes? But I don't think I can convey how valuable it was to the team. To provide feedback during implementation that allowed changes to be made along the way. The early focus groups with families who were served by the program gave input that really helped to improve the program as it went along. And it was just a unique opportunity to engage with an external evaluator with expertise in the field. The final report of the study is available to share. As John mentioned, the executive summary is available today. So I'm just going to share a few highlights. So the study included a total of 108 families who were enrolled at program entry over the course of the 3 years. There are a lot of numbers, a lot of data. I'm not going to go into them, a lot of nuances. And actually, we plan to host a discussion for anyone who's interested in digging into the numbers and kind of getting into the details. But the high-level outcomes that I want to share are, one, that 71% were still in permanent housing at 6 months after program exit. Some others may have been still in a transitional form of housing, may not have been in permanent housing, but 71% still in permanent housing. 12 months after program discharge, 93% of families did not return to homelessness. Which is a very, very positive finding, and it's based both on surveys and data from the Homeless Management Information System. So this is what we were able to verify, and the national average is about 90%, so we're consistent with or better than national numbers. And really exciting finding, 64% improved employment status between program intake and discharge as a result of the employment services that were provided. So the study provides us some key recommendations moving forward. One is to provide a longer subsidy period with a shallower subsidy amount. This program was the average length of subsidy in this program was 4 to 5 months, and assistance was about 6 months. And the researchers felt that families could benefit from less money each month, but for a longer period of time. So that's one thing we're taking into consideration. Further develop landlord outreach and engagement. When you read the study, you'll see that there were a number of challenges with landlords over time, and it's just generally important to continue to cultivate good landlord relationships so that families have a safe and stable place to live even after the program ends. And deeper career-focused employment services, so build on what we had been doing but strengthen the model. So these recommendations will be useful not only to St. Vincent de Paul, but all of our local rapid rehousing providers. And we are very proud that we were able to invest in a study that will benefit our entire system in Baltimore City. So we knew that private funders could not continue to provide such a high percentage of funding for any project. So the plan always was to submit an application to HUD through its competitive continuum of care process. And because St. Vincent de Paul could demonstrate its ability to scale up rapid rehousing, it was awarded the $1 million grant in partnership with House of Ruth. This accomplishment is significant for many reasons, and it's the best possible outcome for a funder. We provided the initial investment, which proved a model can work, and now it can be sustained with federal funding. So during this experience, we realized just how important employment services are to help families regain stability. As one person said to me in the midst of this project, rapid rehousing is an employment program with housing supports, not a housing program with employment supports. So think about that. We need to help families return to stability, and employment is a key component of that. We're providing housing as a basis for the stability while they can achieve their employment goals. So after looking around at models, we decided on the Employment Navigators and the Weinberg Foundation made a 2-year grant to support implementation of this model. And of course, St. Vincent de Paul is well positioned to lead the Navigator model because it already has strong competencies in workforce development. And the uniqueness of this is St. Vincent de Paul has staff that are going to be assigned to partner organizations, Healthcare Access Maryland and House of Ruth, to provide employment services to those clients receiving rapid rehousing. So we hope to see whether this approach leads to even stronger outcomes around employment and income, and I think that it will. So there are certainly challenges ahead to continue the work. Funding is likely stable to support the housing intervention, but we will need to figure out how to sustain employment services and continue to talk about how it's such an important piece of the model. So finally, hopefully without getting too emotional, I want to thank the team at St. Vincent de Paul. As for me personally, this was the most meaningful project one of the most I've worked on in my career. And I just can't say enough about the partnership. Mary Rode is an incredible professional and leader, and we worked very closely on this project. It's really the true meaning of collaboration. And, interestingly, just this morning I was meeting with a colleague from Hawaii who had to come for meetings, unfortunately, did not bring the weather with him. And I said, I have to go. I'm speaking at this event for St. Vincent de Paul. And he said, well, what do they do? And, I was like, well, how much time do you have? What don't they do? And they continue to expand because they continue time and time again to demonstrate that they do this work well and they achieve good outcomes. So they're the ones doing the heavy lifting every single day to move families onto a more stable path. And it was mentioned that there's a family here today who has been in this program, and this is why we're here. This is why we do this work. So, it just makes me very proud to see that you're here and that you support the organization and that it was able to assist you. So thank you again, John, Mary, the whole team, for your willingness to be risk takers and trailblazers and have the courage to do this. Congratulations.
I don't think we could have a more sincere, heartfelt testimonial and partner. I'm just getting to know you, but you are someone I admire already. So thank you so much for all you've done for us and for our community. We are encouraged by these findings and are dedicated to further improving and implementing best practices for continued impact. And so we want to show you what this looks like in practice. So we have a video prepared for you to show you the work that we did.
In Baltimore, there are thousands of people experiencing homelessness. Tragically, families make up 25% of the homeless population, and the instability of homelessness has especially negative impact on children. Fortunately, there is a solution. That solution is housing. Rapid rehousing is a proven, successful way to help people quickly find housing that they can afford and connects them to the supports and services they need to maintain a home. In 2009, St. Vincent de Paul of Baltimore successfully pioneered rapid rehousing services in Baltimore City with the founding of its Front Door program. In the past 8 years, we've seen the power of rapid rehousing as a service that helps families quickly exit homelessness and return to permanent housing. It allows people very quickly to get the resources they need. It helps support them to find housing and to move barriers to housing, and then to move into a home, and it provides short and medium-term rental assistance as well as case management to help with ongoing stability.
Our rapid rehousing program provides stability for our families that are residing in Baltimore City shelters. We provide client assistance, financial assistance.
We use case management and other resources such as workforce development to work with the families to help them gain employment, and other resources like transportation and childcare that helps them be successful in permanent housing long term so that they won't re-enter the homeless experience.
St. Vincent de Paul's Front Door Rapid Rehousing Model is designed to help homeless families quickly find housing, working with partner landlords, help families overcome financial barriers with one-time financial assistance for security deposits, utilities, moving costs, and furnishings, help families pay for housing with short-term rental assistance, connect people to jobs and services to help them increase income and maintain their housing. St. Vincent de Paul's Front Door program has a high success rate. 97% of families remain housed at program exit. 95% of families did not return to the Baltimore City Homeless Services System.
I'm 29. I have 2 boys. I'm a single mother. I had a downfall about, I'm going to say, almost 3 years ago. I lost my job. I done lost my house. I called shelters. Visit shelters, and I got service where I met Miss Marlena, Miss Faith, Miss Amanda. I met so many people that help out. I do a housing readiness class. In that housing readiness class, I teach clients how to engage in getting landlords. I teach them how to do an inspection on their unit. I teach them how to be safe in the community and how to locate resources that can help them become stable in their housing. I also teach the clients how to go over their lease agreement. I always tell them, you gotta know your lease like you know the back of your hand. She called me a go-getter because what I want them to get. I found my place. I gave her the information.
A lot of times after we do our inspection process, and the house passed the HQS inspection, the client then signs a lease. Normally, I'm in the field work and it's sometimes in the office, but that phone call, man, they'll call me and say, Miss Marlena, I'm in my place. I got my furniture. I'm so happy. So that's when I'm like, very good, very good. I always remind the client, you did this on your own. You did this. This is something you did.
And I made the promise to my kids that I'm going to work hard to get everything I need to get for them and keep everything I get for them.
I think sometimes in life, we take for granted like what I deem sometimes as simple things of being able to go home at night, and I think seeing other families have that really puts things in perspective for me as a person.
When I look at families and they have obviously been able to get out of the homeless experience and into permanent housing, it does my heart good.
I respect them for giving me a chance like this and letting me, basically helping me get to where I'm at now. I give them all the gratitude in the world. I mean, if I could, I'd give them a trophy, but I don't have a trophy.
I don't think there's any better way to say it. So last but not least, we welcome our mayor, Pugh, who cares deeply for all the citizens of Baltimore City, including the most vulnerable. Mayor Pugh has been a true partner in expanding support services for those facing homelessness in our community, and we are grateful to have her support and have her here today. Mayor Pugh.
First, let me just say thank you to everyone who's engaged in this effort. And it is a tremendous effort. John, St. Vincent's de Paul services, your wraparound services and wraparound housing, rehousing program is just totally outstanding. And Amy, you know how I feel about the Weinberg Foundation. You've been some real true partners working with the city, working on behalf of the city, the United Way, and certainly Bob and the Able Foundation. Thank you so much for all that you do. And HUD, we're really grateful for this because it means so much for so many. And let me begin by saying that not only am I grateful for the services that are being provided, is that many of you know that early in my administration I was confronted with homelessness, folks laying right out in front of City Hall. And I remember asking, because I was fairly new to City Hall, what should we do? And some of the responses were as low as, they'll be okay. And, I immediately thought, what would I want if I was laying out front? What would I want somebody to do for me? And so, Terry, I want to thank you as well, because what I did was go outside. And I had conversations with the 60-some-odd individuals who were laying out in front of City Hall to demonstrate how homelessness was invading our city in such a very, very strong way. And so I invited them in and I said, what can we do for you? And what they said was, we want housing. We need housing. And I said, well, you can't lay out in front of City Hall, but let me help you. And a lot of lessons learned, Amy, when you bring people in and have real conversations about the real problems that people are facing. And I tell folks that if only by the grace of God, it could be any of us. And so while I was out there and having conversations in City Hall, one transgender woman stood out from the crowd and said, we just really need to be together because we need to focus. And so many people don't know that we took a bus and we moved those individuals to a abandoned school on Fremont Avenue. And for over 70 days, and most folks don't know that, because if you'd have walked by that place, you would not have known they were there. Because what they did was they self-governed. And they did surveys among themselves, and I went there almost every day for that 70-some-odd days because I knew that what we needed to do was to provide housing. And it was interesting as we got down to the end of the 70 days and we had contacted St. Vincent's de Paul, all of the various organizations, as you well know, Volunteers of America, and a number of other groups and organizations to help us. Helping Up Mission was also among those groups. And we said that we were going to help these individuals. I think oftentimes what people forget is all of the struggles that many of those individuals are facing. Some mental health issues, some drug addiction issues, and some families that just lost their home or lost their way and just needed a helping hand. And what other folks didn't know was that there were people inside of that building that got up every day and went to work. And some folks, as Samantha would say to you, that couldn't get up, but they just needed a place to lay their head. And so while we went through that experience, I can tell you, through the help of St. Vincent's de Paul, as well as Helping Up Mission and a number of other groups and organizations and Volunteers of America, that we were able to house those individuals. Sarah's Hope. The families with children, we immediately helped because we knew we needed to take care of those children. As has been demonstrated by your study in the video, the impact that we have on young lives in this city matters for the future of our city. And then we were confronted with the 40-some-odd individuals who were on Guilford Avenue. And people said, you can't just move them. And it was never about just moving them. It was about helping them. We went in to those camps. We did surveys. We talked to individuals. And we helped them into places like St. Vincent's de Paul's units, as well as, Volunteers of America, and a number of other groups and organizations. Homelessness is a very serious problem, and it is a problem that our city must face in a very, very, very valiant way. We must step up to the plate because, again, we can help people, but it's just not about the homelessness, which you see. It is about the individual and the problems that they may be facing, whether it is unemployment or health care issues or mental health issues or drug abuse issues. They deserve the same kind of attention that every single individual in our community deserves. You know, it is said that when you lift the least, you lift all of us. And that's what these efforts are about. It's about how we lift the people in our communities, how we make sure that they can move forward. If our city is to move forward, it is to move forward with all of the individuals in our city. So I'm really thankful to Joe Wood, who is chairman of the Continental of Care Board. Is he here? Where's Joe? Thank you. Okay, but I wanted to thank him as well. But I also wanted to do a special thanks to Weinberg, as well as the Able Foundation and the United Way that are engaged in this work. We can make a difference in the lives of people when we look at every individual as the same. When the city becomes more inclusive, more diverse, and more understanding of its population, we can change our city. Every community deserves the same kind of support. Every individual in our community deserves support. And when somebody reaches out, we're supposed to be able to lift up. So again, let me say thank you. Thank you for your work. More importantly, thank you for the future of the many individuals that you will touch and help to change their lives. We are committed to making sure that we do give them the services, whether it is unemployment to employment, mental health services, and drug addiction treatment. And we've got to do this in a very holistic way. A city that wraps its arms around its people is a city that can be great. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you to everyone for joining us today to celebrate the relaunch of Front Door and our Navigator model. We really appreciate your presence. We look forward to continuing the great work. And thank you again to Mayor Pugh, our funders and partners, for joining us today. Thank you to our clients who've done the work of the work. We're grateful to have you, Kelly, Mr. Johnson, here with us today. So that concludes our program. Please enjoy the refreshments. If you have any questions, we are around for comment along with staff. And again, one more time, I just wanted to let you know that if you are interested in the executive summary that we've discussed here, there are copies here. We do look forward to having a further discussion on the findings of that, and there is a full report available upon request. Thank you so much and have a great day.